I'd like to call tonight's meeting of the Planning Commission for November 23rd to order. If I could get everybody to please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you and welcome to everyone this evening. Tonight's agenda will consist of the consent agenda, public hearing for a conditional use permit for Prescott Plaza, which was continued from our November 9th meeting, a public hearing for a conditional use permit for Quick Trip, a site plan and design review for Quick Trip, other business, and then adjourned. So with that, I would do item number 1 on the agenda, which would be the consent agenda, and look for a motion for approval.
So moved.
From Commissioner Wallace, second from Commissioner Sanders. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Before I get to the public hearings, I'll just refresh everybody's memories on the procedure for a public hearing. I'll open the public hearing, call for exhibits from our attorney. Staff will make their comments. Applicant will be given an opportunity to present his presentation. I'll ask for witnesses in favor, witnesses opposed, general question and discussion from the commission members, and then we will close the public hearing and call for a vote. So with that, I would like to reopen the conditional use permit public hearing for Prescott Plaza. And Scott, do you want to give us kind of a synopsis on what's going on?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, this is a continuation of the public hearing from the last meeting, and I'll just bring up the agenda item here for our review consideration here. See the site plan or the site map here shows the approximate location of Prescott Plaza on South 7 Highway. And just in terms of some background information, again, the request is for a vehicle repair limited business, which does require a conditional use permit in the currently zoned GB general business property. There was a previous vehicle related business in the proposed location in the suite in Prescott Plaza Strip Center. And now the applicant is looking to do a little bit more extensive type of vehicle use in that location. So I'll bring this overview map up, and if there are any questions of staff, we can certainly go over those again. Otherwise, I'll turn it over to the applicant.
Okay. Any questions from the commissioners?
Mr. Chair, I have
Yes.
a question. I don't understand on the general comments where we're going to allow them to plug the floor drains instead of putting a grease trap interceptor in it, grease and sand. Why would we do that?
That's a good question. I'll defer to our city engineer. Hopefully he can answer that as well.
Well, I guess the best I can answer is they're providing a spill response plan and able to respond. And what that does is provide them a way to clean up spills if they have them. I don't see a large quantity of spills with this type of operation. But the purpose of plugging it up is to prevent that from getting into the sanitary sewer system, because there is a floor drain right now that's connected to the sewer system.
And I understand that, but my question would be more in a way that if the floor was contaminated and it's in the winter months and they pull a car in full of snow and they got all the water, can't go anywhere, so now you're telling me they're going to clean it up and discard it someplace, but nobody knows where.
I may let the applicant respond to that question where they are going to discard.
Any other questions for Mr. Allen while he's... Okay, seeing none. If the applicant would come forward, state your name, be sworn in, and give us your address, please.
I'm Doug McFadden, and my address is 14020 Northwest 63rd Street in Parkville, Missouri. I represent the ownership of the Prescott Plaza. To address your question of a spill, any used oil, expended oil, or any kind of fluid for that matter is just sent to a recycler. So everything is reclaimed. So there isn't really a depository or anything like that on the floor. We reclaim it. It would be reclaimed immediately when it leaves the vehicle, I guess, is the thing. So everything, and so then there's incidental spills, and there's just a spill containment plan in place. Part of that plan is to plug the floor drains, but
So it's cheaper to plug the drains, not put the sand filter in, and then vacuum up all of the water and carry it someplace or push it out the door than it would to be just to go under a normal operation of a mechanic shop.
and what water are you talking about?
Anything that comes from rain or snow or ice buildup from underneath the car.
Oh, this is an enclosed facility with garage doors, so there isn't, it's not out in the open or anything.
So if I come for an oil change and it's in the wintertime, I don't have any snow or ice buildup underneath my car.
You
My
might.
garage gets flooded in the wintertime, that's why I'm saying.
Oh, I got you. Okay, I follow you. Okay, yeah, any residual, I guess it's, no different than, yeah, we're going to keep a clean shop. I mean, it's required to keep a clean shop, and so whatever residual snow or sand or sleet or coke or oil or gasoline, or if something falls on the floor, they're going to clean it up as a general course. And it is much cheaper than the deal, no doubt about it. And this is a request for a conditional use permit. I'm not an operator. I don't run an auto mechanic shop. What we're finding is that there are businesses in apparently a hole in the market for that kind of business, and the prior use being automotive related. It was an auto glass repair shop, Benswanger. The type of shop, the way it's laid out, is appealing to these kind of businesses, and so we as property owners are seeking a way to accommodate their locating a business there. So I'm limited on the details I can provide.
No further questions.
Commissioner Cradoff?
Yes, in relationship to the same issue, I have a question. The response you give regarding the usage of hydrophobic mop and rags seem very vague. Do you have a proper house cleaning memo that states specifically how you maintain your shop and housekeeping with respect to OSHA standard policies?
I don't. The lease document that we have, the standard lease document, requires them to comply with all federal and local EPA regulations, and so whatever ordinances or whatever would be called out by the EPA for the management of spills and that kind of thing, it will be required as a part of the lease. It would be a violation of the lease not to follow those standards, even if those are not laws, but that they are standards. We require them to follow the standards.
With your short statement about rags and the hydrophobic mop, I found that the mop doesn't absorb all spills, for example, antifreeze and so forth. So I'm just curious what your next method of cleanup would be.
I'm not capable of giving you a great answer of that. I don't know what that. I don't know exactly what that would be.
Any other questions for the applicant? Commissioner Billups?
I'll be quick. No. Did I hear you say you don't have a specific tenant at this time? You're just trying to get this in place so that you can find a tenant? Is that?
We have a handful of tenants that have looked at the space and have approved it for their business plan, and we have one in particular who would like to submit their security deposit. They've read the lease. They're prepared to go forward. We've told them we just stop the process here until we get a conditional use permit.
Okay. So it's not just, there is something specific here
Yes.
in the works. It's not just a
Yes.
hope and a, okay.
Yeah, that's correct. And part of the lease, of course, is that they have to get an occupancy permit and that kind of thing. And we kind of assumed that maybe some of these level of questions would be addressed specifically in the occupancy use permit when that's granted.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant? All right. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak in favor? Anybody in the audience that would like to speak in opposition? Any other questions, comments from the commissioners? Yes, Commissioner Peel.
Mr. Chairman, I had a question for staff. How do they seal the drains? And is there a way to bypass that sealing, if you will?
I'm going to have to get with our operations folks on that because I don't know the exact process for plugging those drains. But I believe those would be the folks that would inspect that to make sure it's done correctly.
Okay, one further question, is there any monitoring of whether the plugs remain in place or if there's any bypass of the sealing?
I think that's one I'll have to get back to you on as well, see how they go about doing that. I apologize.
Thank you. No further questions.
Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and entertain any more comments, questions, motions. Yes, Commissioner Billups.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I would move for approval of CUP 1015-5011 with the 6 staff recommendations.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second from Commissioner Duhan. Any other discussion on the motion? Seeing none, this will be a roll call vote.
Planning Commissioner Wallace.
Aye.
Commissioner Haney.
Aye.
Commissioner Duhan. Aye. Commissioner Peel.
Aye.
Commissioner Banks.
Aye.
Commissioner Bottalotta.
Nay.
Commissioner Sanders.
Aye.
Commissioner McCall. Nay. Commissioner Billups.
Aye.
Commissioner Cradoff.
Nay.
Chairman Graham.
Aye. Motion approved. You're welcome. Next item on the agenda will be a public hearing for a conditional use permit for Quick Trip. We will also be hearing the site plan design review from staff at the same time. So with that, I will open the public hearing. I will ask for exhibits from our attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The city has 8 exhibits. Exhibit 1 is the staff report with attachments. Exhibit 2 is the affidavit of publication in the Blue Springs Examiner, dated November 7th, 2015. Exhibit 3 is the application with attachments. Exhibit 4 is the 185-foot notification map. Exhibit 5 is the name, addresses of property owners within 185 feet of the site. Exhibit 6 is a copy of the letter sent to the property owners. Exhibit 7 is Title 4 Land Use section of the Blue Springs Code of Ordinances. And Exhibit 8 is the 2014 Comprehensive Plan. Those are the exhibits from the city.
Thank you very much. Mr. Wright, would you like to make a presentation for us?
Yep, thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Before you are 2 requests associated with the development of Quick Trip store number 217R, which is at the northwest corner of Southwest 7 and 40 highways. The first request is for a conditional use permit to allow a service station large use in a general business zoning district. The UDC defines a large service station as any station with 17 or more gas pumps. The proposed Quick Trip will have 24 pump stations. This will be a 24-hour facility. Because the site is not adjacent to any residentially zoned properties, there are no additional restrictions on screening or hours of operation for this site. The convenience store will sell the standard items that are sold at other Quick Trip stores, including, but will have a greater variety of prepared food on site that'll be available at their new Generation 3 model store. The applicant has also requested some outdoor displays being permitted along the front of the building, as well as on the northern side of the innermost gas pumps under the gas canopy. Those will be items generally will vary by season, may include firewood, windshield wiper fluid, soda, things like that. And these items will not interfere with parking, required drive aisles, or should interfere with the stacking space. And then in addition to that, there will be no car washing services or vehicle repair on site. And then the second item is for a site plan design review for the Quick Trip site, which will include a 5,858 square foot building and a 24-hour gas pump. 24 pump stations on 2.67 acres. Under the new UDC, the building is classified as a pad site with a buffer edge frontage type. Several variances were approved at the Board of Adjustment on November 11th for the site, which include allowing the lot to exceed the maximum width of 200 feet for a pad site, allowing the site to exceed the maximum number of parking spaces, which is capped at 39 for this site, and they're requesting 75. Allowing parking in front of the front building line, which would be anything that's in front of the building itself, not the setback line. And then reducing the west parking perimeter buffer by approximately 2 feet. As was discussed with the preliminary plat, there were some concerns among staff, city staff, and MoDOT staff with the westernmost access. The applicant is continuing to work with staff on that, and we will be having a meeting tomorrow regarding that as well, as we continue to work on that, making sure that there are safe turning movements down in the southwest corner. Again, the site has provided 75 parking spaces, including 3 ADA spaces and a bike rack that can accommodate at least 3 bikes, which is a requirement under the new UDC when you're within 1,000 feet of a designated bike route. Both Highway 7 and 40 are designated bike routes. In addition to the public sidewalks that will be installed along 7 and 40 highways, the applicant has provided sidewalk connections to the building entrance, both to 7 Highway here and then to 40 Highway on the west side of the building. Crossings through the parking lot and drive aisles must be striped as shown. And then the 8-foot, the sidewalk over here on the side is shown as 5, but it will be required to be 8 feet per the new UDC to accommodate the vehicle overhang. There are 15 light poles located on site. Let me see if there's the lighting plan is in here. There are 15 light poles located on the site that provide security for the building and for the parking lot. There's 1 light that is located in the right-of-way, and staff will require that to be shifted out of the right-of-way to meet the UDC. And the applicant has submitted an alternative compliance landscape plan. I'll get back to that. This request does include, as part of the alternative compliance, it does include the use of rows of Sharons as ornamental trees as opposed to shrubs. In your staff report, the applicant has provided an image of how Quick Trip trims the rows of Sharons to resemble more of an ornamental tree, and the proposed sizes of those does meet the standards for an ornamental tree per the UDC. The site is short. As you can see in the staff report, the site is short. The required number of ornamental and shade trees. I'll let the applicant explain a little bit about that. And then they're also relocating the 15-foot transition buffer between general business and light industrial. I believe the northern 60 feet of the site is light industrial. So instead of having the buffer in the middle of the parking lot, they're just going to shift that to the northern property line. Total number of plant units required without the buffer edge frontage is 760 units. They provided 652, which is short 108 units. But once you add the buffer edge frontage, including the entire row of hedges that they will have along the perimeter of the parking lot, they have 1,130 plant units on site. In addition to that, they have accommodated the 15% increase in parking lot landscaping that's required for exceeding the maximum number of parking spaces. And then for the overall building design, you've probably seen some of these buildings. There's a couple in Independence. It's a 5,858 square foot building, primarily with brick and then porcelain tile around the entrances. This is a single-story building. It does have metal awnings above the windows and the entrances. Overall, the building does provide the vertical and horizontal interest, including variations in height and massing that's required for non-residential design standards. And then non-building transparency is provided at pedestrian level with the clear glass windows and clear entrances. The gas canopy will complement the building with the brick pillars. Rooftop and ground level screening has been accounted for and will be reviewed by staff through the building permit process, and all the screening must be completed prior to approval of the final certificate of occupancy. Staff recommends approval of the conditional use permit subject to the 5 conditions in the staff report, and approval of the site plan design review subject to the 9 conditions in the staff report. And then there's one minor correction on the 7th condition. It should read Southwest 7 instead of Northwest 7 Highway. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Wright? Yes, Commissioner Duhan.
Can you clarify, please, what you were saying about the bypass and
Yes. With the UDC, under the new UDC, any site that is being redeveloped or developed, if it's within 1,000 feet of a designated bike route, then they are required to provide bike ramps based on there's certain requirements. For this one, it's based on the number of parking spaces. Both 7 and 40 highways are designated bike routes in our comprehensive plan.
Commissioner Duhan, could you speak into the microphone, please? Thank you.
So will those bike paths be moved through the parking lot, or will they stay on the side of the street where they are?
No, these are not they're not required to put in an additional bike lane or anything like that. Bike lanes are already on the shoulders of both roads. They just have to provide that for bicyclists who are using those routes to have a place to park while they're on site.
Okay, so with the added traffic flow, is that a concern for the safety of those bikers on that corner?
I've never ridden my bike on 7 or 40, but it's I should probably defer to our city engineer who has perhaps ridden your bike on 40 or 7, but that's a good question. It's not something we typically consider in terms of additional traffic impacts with existing or proposed bike routes. We're simply looking at bike parking with our new UDC. Not looking, as you had mentioned, we're not really looking at, as Matt clarified, we're not really looking at additional bike lanes or bike access. It's simply the bike parking. So just one, you're right, it's one piece of the whole equation, and that's really all the UDC has been modified to look at this point.
Any other questions? Yes, Commissioner Billups.
I understand that they've approved, there was a variance approved for this additional parking. You said, it sounds like what I heard you say, there's almost double the amount of parking that was
Correct.
required. And it seems like an awful lot of parking spaces for this type of occupancy. Would you like to address what the justification for that was, or would you like the applicant?
I'll let the applicant explain that, but they have similar parking counts for their new model stores as well. So it's part of their business model, but I'll let them explain that.
Commissioner Sanders?
I had a similar question. What is the minimum parking spots are allowed or needed?
The minimum,
how much do we have here?
Minimum for this site is 32. Under the new UDC, they're allowed to exceed that by 25% without needing a variance, which is 39 spaces. So they're up to 75 on this site, is what they received a variance for.
Did you have a comment, Mr. Allen?
Yes, just in relation to that, again, as Mr. Wright noted, the Board of Adjustment did hear this on November 11th, and the applicant did provide a lengthy explanation as to justification for that. So hopefully they can provide the same here tonight for your consideration.
And it was approved through the Board of
Yes,
Adjustment?
it was approved, I believe, unanimously. So.
Okay. Commissioner Peel, did you have a question?
Yes, I did. Mr. Wright, there was some concern with the lighting. Like you say, there was one light that was illuminating the right-of-way, which it needed to be moved to a different location. Mm-hmm. There was also a concern with tree placement on any island that was greater or equal to 7 foot wide.
Yes.
But there was concern from the AGC engineers that the trees would have to be placed differently because of security cameras, or is there some some solution for that 7 foot wide with a tree limit? And also, there is one of the responses from AGC on the lighting was that it was at an optimum setting. So I didn't know what they meant by that. Are they moving the right of way, or what's going to occur in that instance?
They won't be moving. The right-of-way is already there, so they won't be adding or doing anything with the right-of-way. But the one light pole that's at that access will need to be shifted slightly to be out of the right-of-way. For the landscaping, I'll let the applicant discuss that. One of the reasons they did not want to have any trees in the islands was because they do have security cameras throughout the parking lot, and there was some concerns that if there were trees that were blocking that, then things wouldn't be getting caught by the security cameras. So there were some concerns about that from the applicant.
Okay, so staff agrees with that plan.
Well, that's why they've requested the alternative compliance plan. And I'll let them explain that.
Okay. No further questions. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you, Mr. Wright. Would the applicant like to come forward, be sworn in, state your name, address, please?
Do you solemnly swear to testify about the given cause and matters to be the truth,
Andrew Smith, 5725 Fox Ridge Drive, Mission, Kansas. First, I'd like to thank everybody for coming out tonight. Just a brief synopsis of our overall project. We're looking to build one of our Generation 3 buildings, which is our new upgraded building over our old style Generation 2, which you're probably more familiar with. We're looking to build on the northwest corner of 40 and 7. We're going to have 12 total MPDs, or 24 fueling positions. We're going to have a right-in, right-out access on 7, right-in, right-out on 40, and an additional full access on 40. For the conditional use permit, I'll just go through the conditions briefly here. One condition was to submit a traffic study, which we submitted both to Blue Springs and MoDOT. The next were our hours of operation. We will be a 24-hour operation, even including holidays. This is convenience for our customers, and it also supplies additional employment opportunities. I actually worked overnights for 3 years in the stores. It worked really well with my school schedule and everything, and kept me in college until I graduated. Additionally, our food offering, grocery offering, ATM, all of that will be consistent with other locations. Our goal as a company really is that you go into a Quick Trip, you get your 20-ounce bottle of Coke, and you can go to any Quick Trip and get that same, well, hopefully not the exact same bottle, but you know exactly where to go for it. Additionally, you guys have seen our building and canopy elevations. It's all compatible. We even have a brick on our canopy columns and everything to match the building itself. To address some of the concerns that I've heard in terms of bike safety, the traffic is there today. We really don't generate traffic. We just capitalize on traffic that's already there. It's an intersection of two highways. Really, we discussed this with MoDOT, and it's dominated by vehicular traffic as it is. there's really not the pedestrian traffic there. I mean, this really isn't designed for that type of traffic. Another concern we had was we had about the trees. We are exceeding the overall number of plant units required. Additionally, with the amount of traffic that's there, that was a concern of the BZA as well. They were concerned with the overall congestion at that intersection. By having better lines of sight to the store and to the canopy, you don't get people who are pulling up the access point and then have to shift across 2 lanes to get to their right in, right out. The more time that you have to make a decision, the easier it is to get into our lot. I believe there was one other concern. It was
Number of parking spaces.
Number of parking spaces, yes. Sorry about that. We ran the numbers on a different store. The most similar one that we could think of was the store on State Line and 435. Also is a Generation 3, has 12 fueling positions, and it has 73 parking spaces. We ran the numbers between a 6 a.m. and 2 p.m. morning shift, and on average, if you take out, we assumed 6 spaces for employees, which is probably a little bit low. And we took out the air pump and the ADA spaces, and it came to a total of each space being occupied on average 34 times in an 8-hour period. Multiply that by approximately 5 minutes per customer, which is, I think, a fairly safe number. Some are going to be in there longer, some aren't going to be in there longer. Based on the transaction counts, that equates to each space being occupied for approximately 3 hours out of an 8-hour period, with 73 parking spaces. That's hardly building for our worst case scenario. We completely understand the big box retailers that build for Black Friday, just coming up. We're not building for that type of scenario. That type of scenario would be what happened to Southwest Boulevard a few weeks ago when the Royals won the World Series. That parade that just, there's no way you could plan. We're not building for those types, even though I think we would all agree that that parade's going to happen again next year. But we're still not going to build for that type of scenario. So with that, I'll be more than happy to open the floor for any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Smith? Yes, Commissioner Duhon?
Lost my train of thought here now. There's been several quick trips go up around town recently. This one, I do believe, is going to be bigger than any of those that have gone up so far. So has there been any concern or thought given as to whether or not there's a possibility that that might cause any of the smaller ones to be closed?
It's a possibility. I'm not really on that side of things. I'm really into the development side. We have shut down our Generations 2 in the past, but I honestly don't know at this point what the plan is on that.
Commissioner Wallace, did you have a question?
That was my question.
Okay. Any other questions? Yes, Commissioner Banks.
Now, you're planning on closing out the south and the north one, right? The 2 smaller ones?
I've heard conversations of that. I'm not 100% certain really what the plan is there. I have heard that, but I think we're still looking at that. We're still trying to run the economics on it to see what the future is for those stores.
Okay.
Commissioner Peel.
I'll restate my question on the lighting concern, on the alternate landscaping. How are you addressing the security cameras and the lighting as well?
For the lighting, we have agreed that we're going to move that light out of the right-of-way. We don't have any issues with doing that. As for the security cameras, I think that we've looked at the plan that we currently have, and it will work with the security cameras that we're proposing. We're looking for 24-hour or for complete lot coverage. That way, if there is an incident, which really Quick Trips overall are a very safe place to be. Everybody, I mean, if you're going to stop at most convenience stores in the middle of the night, I'm a little biased, obviously, but I would pick Quick Trip. So we do believe, though, that the current landscaping plan that we're proposing works best with the security system.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak in favor? Seeing none, anybody in the audience that would like to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I would bring it back up for discussion on the record with the commissioners. Any comments, questions? Yes, Commissioner Billups.
I will go on the record as saying that I think this is a good use for this corner. I think it is a better use for the corner than what we currently have. More a dense, appropriate use for a high-traffic area like this. So I'm in favor of this, and I think this is a good spot for it.
Thank you. Any other comments? Yes, Commissioner Cradoff.
I'd like to go on the record also to say that aesthetically, I think it's a great improvement, and I like the idea that they're going to do more hiring in the area. So, welcome.
Great. Any other comments? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and entertain a motion. Yes, Commissioner Billups.
Mr. Chairman, I would move for approval of the conditional use permit 1015-5024 with the 5 staff recommendations as corrected by staff.
Okay.
Because they corrected that. Well, we do that separately.
We're doing the site plan.
It's on the site plan design review had the corrected, so I don't believe the conditional use permit had any corrected. Is that correct?
Was the correction on?
It's on the site plan.
It was on the site plan? Okay, then I removed the correction part.
Okay. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Cradoff. This will be a roll call vote.
Planning Commissioner Haney.
Aye.
Commissioner Duhan.
Aye.
Commissioner Peel.
Aye.
Commissioner Banks. Aye. Commissioner Bartolotta.
Aye.
Commissioner Sanders.
Aye.
Commissioner McCoy, or McCall, I'm sorry.
Aye.
Commissioner Billups.
Aye.
Commissioner Cradoff.
Aye.
Commissioner Wallace.
Aye.
Chairman Graham.
Aye. Motion carries. That brings us to our fourth item on the agenda is the site plan and design review for Quick Trip. We've heard staff comments and applicant comments. So is there any other discussion, questions, comments on that one, or motions to be heard?
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Billups.
Ditto. I would move for approval of SPDR 1015-5023 with the 9 staff recommendations, this time as corrected by staff.
Thank you. I missed the second. Was it Commissioner Peel? Thank you. I have a motion. I have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is other business. Mr. Allen?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, our next meeting is actually 3 weeks from now, since next Monday is fifth Monday, but it's also the next Eastern Jackson County Planning Commissioner training, which will be at Central Jackson County Fire Protection District Training Center. Thank you to Karen for all of her hard work putting that together, as well as Jim Holly, who's unable to be here tonight. He's at a floodplain conference right now. But we are expecting 55 attendees. So it'll be well attended, a very thorough, comprehensive program that's being put together on senior mobility and just mobility kind of trends and projects and policies in general around the metro, but focusing again on Eastern Jackson County, well as speakers from KCATA, including former Kansas City, Kansas Mayor Joe Reardon will be one of the speakers. So it should be an excellent program. Again, next Monday at CJC Training Facility. Time is
5:30.
5:30. Thank you. So that's what we'll be doing with our fifth Monday. So hopefully see most of you there next Monday. And then again, December 14th, which is 3 weeks from now, will be the next Planning Commission meeting. And we're anticipating some applications to move forward for the White Oak Marketplace, which you've seen in kind of a draft format up to this point. So we'll be looking at redevelopment of White Oak, also in this general vicinity as the proposed Quick Trip. So I think that's the majority of the applications we'll have.
Yeah, there's quite a few. Adams Dairy, Adams Point. Is it Adams Point?
Oh,
Randy
well,
Salee.
Yeah, some other tentative plats that'll be going forward. So
They should be submitted tomorrow.
we'll have a good mix for the 14th.
Great.
So look forward to seeing everybody. Last meeting before the holidays come upon us. So with that, We do have a scheduled Plan Commission meeting for December 28th. Keep that in mind. Again, that's in between Christmas and New Year's, so please let Karen know as soon as possible if there are any attendance issues with that. We do want to make sure we have a quorum since we did get some applications in just this past Friday. So that's all we have from staff.
All right. Any other business to be brought forward? Seeing none, I would like to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. And with that, I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
I had a motion from Commissioner Duhan. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Peel. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Meeting is adjourned.